Stafford is on the map. Stafford is doing great things. My challenge to you today is what's next? You got great infrastructure, you've worked hard on getting broadband, roads, airports. So what's next? We talk a lot about the governor is all in on economic development, as is the team here. And I think that there's no shortage of interest in trying to get more businesses to come to Virginia. So far there's been $7.1 billion in investment and about almost 32,000 jobs created in the tenure of this governor and our administration. But my question to you is, what's next? We look at cybersecurity, we look at economic development, you even look at the companies that were celebrated here tonight. They don't fit necessarily the traditional economic development model. They don't bring in 500 jobs. They don't bring in a 200,000 square foot facility. They're small, they're growing, they're lean, they're nimble. Some of them will never make it to 50. Why? Because they're so good somebody else will buy them. Or they're so good and they're so niche oriented, and I'm thinking specifically about cybersecurity when I say that, that's the size they want to be, because if they get much bigger, they stop being nimble and they stop being able to keep up. And so I would challenge the economic development folks here to say, okay, you've got a great start with these folks. You've got a great entrepreneurial base going. What's next? We look at cybersecurity. That's become one of the hallmarks of the governor's administration. I was in the office about a month when he said, cybersecurity, Virginia #1, make it happen. Okay, that's a small order. But as we started to peel back the onion, we realized that cybersecurity touches every one of us. If you look around the room, probably half the people in here in some way have either had credit card fraud, have been part of a breach. I have, through a healthcare system breach. It's not a matter of if it's going to happen, it's when it's going to happen. That's just a fact of life. First responders in the back, you guys know that this goes on all the time. And so what are you doing to help each other in that realm? We talk a lot about information sharing. We talk a lot about supporting cyber businesses, but that's a very difficult concept, because when you get into starting to grow a village around a topic, people say, well, that information's mine. If I tell you that, then you're going to look at me differently because I've been breached. I don't want you to know that. And sometimes you don't even know that you've been breached when you have. A typical hacker sits on a network for about 200 days before they're ever noticed. That's a scary thought. One of the biggest challenges that we have is we have a lot of infrastructure that's shared. So we rely on the same infrastructure that you as a municipality do, that the citizens do, and we look at them and say, how are you securing your networks? It's not information that people want to readily share. And so a lot of the conversation at CyberGuard today was around how do we all support each other? Because what happens with a hack is if a hacker can get in and get in cheap, then it can spread very quickly if we don't share the information about where that hack came from down the line. So if I get hacked and I don't tell you, or I don't tell anybody, and I just fix it, then he's going to hit another half of you, probably, before somebody stands up and goes, I got hacked and maybe I should tell somebody else. Once they tell somebody else, then that fix can be spread across a wide variety of industries, and it can make a big difference. Why do we care about cyber? I mean, obviously, we have a large network that we have to protect. Your information as citizens are in our network, quite frankly. But aviation, anything that's hooked to a network can and will be eventually touched by somebody trying to do something bad. So now that I've been the wet blanket on part of the conversation, you guys are well positioned to be a part of the cyber conversation. Your proximity to Quantico, your willingness to support entrepreneurs, the data centers that you're building and have built, they all lay a perfect foundation for being a leader in the cybersecurity conversation. You have a lot of those assets already in place. Another reason why this is so important, 210,000 jobs nationally available in cybersecurity right now that can't be filled. There is a 0 and negative unemployment rate in cybersecurity. I think if you look at the statistics, that's the only industry you will find that there's a 0 unemployment rate. and it's getting harder to find cyber employees. These are not the people with 4-year degrees. They may be, some might be. They're not people with PhDs. A 6-year-old boy found a way to hack an Xbox. He's now on the Microsoft team. Not your traditional employee, not your traditional place to look for someone to employ. So it's not about staying the same. You've built a great foundation. You've built, the broadband work that you've done. I applaud. You're the model community for broadband. But in moving to what's next, we have to look at what we do, and we have to look at ourselves differently, because the world is changing. If we don't change the way that we respond to it, then we're going to get left behind. It's just a fact of life. Our educational system is going to look different. Our employment situation already looks different. There's careers out there now that nobody envisioned 5 years ago, even. And these are good jobs. But how do we keep pace with that? And how does Stafford deal with being able to train kids coming up through STEM and through the educational system for jobs that didn't exist when they started school? How do you keep pace with that? How do you help each other make sure that you don't go stagnant or you don't go stale as this pace continues to wind up? So I'll leave you with that as a challenge. I'd also mention another pet project of both Randy and mine, and that is unmanned systems. We have worked hard. Virginia is one of the 6 FAA test sites for unmanned systems, and Virginia is the 7th largest. We have the 7th largest concentration of unmanned systems companies nationally. There is a lot of capabilities here in the Commonwealth that we need to capitalize on. Again, your proximity to DC, your proximity to the central part of the state, and even to the Hampton Roads area makes you a prime candidate to be part of those discussions. Unmanned systems is really a microcosm of a lot of industries. It's sensors, it's cyber, it's aviation, it's maritime. There's rules and policies. There's a lot of work that needs to be done in this space, and you guys are well positioned to take advantage of that. So my challenge to you tonight is, while we stand here and we laud the great accomplishments and we think about all the great things that we've done, and I've been fortunate enough to be here now my 3rd time, so I hope I get to come back for number 4. But as you think about that, what's next? What does Stafford look like 5 years from now, 10 years from now? Not based on how we do our job today, but based on how we want things to be in the future. And the future is something that we can't envision because we don't know what's coming. And so I'm going to leave you with the challenge of what's next. You've done great work. You continue to do great work. You've got, everybody would be envious of the infrastructure that you've got in place. You've all obviously have a very tight sense of community and village from the awards that we just heard. Congratulations. I think that's amazing what you guys are doing. But what's next? How do you take Stafford to the next level? We're here to help. We're here to support. I hate using that phrase that says I'm from the government and I'm here to help. But we are in some cases. And I would encourage you to include us. We have a cybersecurity commission. We're doing more and more work on unmanned systems. Engage with us. Those are public meetings. Be a part of that process. We're talking about education. We're talking about workforce. We're talking about infrastructure. We're talking about cybercrime. Get involved and put yourselves on the map with one of these new technology areas. Just bundle together the right pieces of the assets that you have and stake a claim for something. Stake a claim for that next generation economy and define what you're going to be. This, again, I can't tell you how proud of all the work that you've done. I am ecstatic to be here, look forward to coming back, but I'm going to leave you with the question of what's next. So what's next? I look forward to coming back and being a part of whatever that might be. Thank you.